everybody, I'm Srishti and I'm a working professional in the civil society who is currently in between jobs. For the purpose of this video, I would like to share some personal experiences that I was exposed to in the most mundane setting that we call home, and how I navigated through the same during this lockdown period to ensure that my everyday was afloat and sane. I since I came home, which was I think in July, the 1st of July, I often find myself trapped in this box that I would call performativity. Um, I first heard about this term when I was reading Butler in my masters. So there is this incessant emphasis laid on behaving well. There is this constant need to engage, to participate, to sit together, to eat together, to laugh together, to constantly be in one room together, to honor familial togetherness. Every day I find is a struggle to prove that I care, that I do not have a heart made of stone. My ways could be non conventional, but the bottom line is that I do care. Of course, it's my family and I would care for them. Of course, in this process of bringing the family in one room, under one roof, I have to offer my physical presence the most. Sort of like how, my teacher would be very concerned at school for my attendance every day, like that. But it was not my preferred choice to be present. I just started existing. Each time that I brought myself into the room where everybody was gathering around, I received an extra brownie point, and that gave me more acceptance within the family. While I was closing in on myself personally, on an individual level, my family took it to mean that I was opening up to them. My physical presence was offering a very good cushion against all battles that I was otherwise fighting by being on my own, by taking up my own space, by honoring my need of privacy. I transitioned from being a rebel to an accommodating child because I was constantly with them, because I was offering my presence. So I naturally chose to continue to perform, promising myself that I'd do it for as long as I could. But I soon hit rock bottom. My mood took a slump owing to some issues that I was dealing with on an individual level, and I withdrew myself from all those gatherings to give myself some time to heal, some privacy to look into things, to find nuance, to engage with my own issues. And I withdrew myself. I took some time off and I closed myself in a room. This was now a clear-cut digression from, the ideal behavior that one has to put up. This, of course, as I was told, disrupted the flora and fauna and the discipline that is usually attached to a cultured home. I became the detached child again. I had no intention to participate, as I was told. The question of my education was questioned. Was it my education that was compromising my value systems? And when I talk of value systems, I mean moral value systems. Was it, taking me away from my family? Did it turn me into a rebel? My education. So these are some very core problems that I faced. While, the gist of it remains the same, that I was constantly having to perform. I would like to emphasize on the fact that I was performing so many roles. I was a daughter, I was a sister. When some relative was visiting, I was somebody else to them. And I became a lot of people within one person. Okay, so I also lost track of who I was essentially and organically to myself. So yeah, now moving on, I really believe that one should not leave anything just to the problematizing extent. While it is very essential to problematize, I believe that it is also equally essential to look at a solution. Whether or not the solution works is a different ballgame altogether. But it is also important to at least acknowledge that, there could be some remedies, there could be some things to make some things better. So moving on to that, I would like to emphasize on some points that I myself tried on, and it didn't fix anything. Not that I was looking for fixing per se, but it did help. One should, I think, maximize ownership over one's mental health. This may now create some disruption and cause discomfort, because then you will have to engage, you have to explain. But I think it is honestly better out than in, because one day frustration will build up and you will explode. So it is better to talk than to just explode, because your explosion nobody will understand. But if it is a verbal communication, maybe like people could hear you out. That's a good possibility. If one needs something, I think one should ask for it. Nothing falls into your lap organically. That doesn't happen. And I think in order to ask something, in order to get something, you need to ask. And for that, communication is very important. It is also important to be aware of your own battles, the battles that you want to take up, the battles that you would want to leave, because one day might expose you to multiple of them simultaneously. And humanly, it is not possible to take up all of them, because then you will get exhausted. That's the end of the story. And you will lose more than you will ever gain. Find a schedule that keeps you rooted and engaged. For myself, I chose to stick to painting, cooking, and baking. I take my inner turmoil out, and I create something that I can look at and appreciate when I'm in times of distress. That helps me personally. Sit and talk with your family, even if it doesn't lead to a solution. Communication is important. It will provide transparency. At least you will have the satisfaction of knowing that you didn't act out. That is important. It is also important to understand that the past can't be changed. Household patterns are very stringent, because they have been built over like so many years, and like you get used to the pattern, and it may not fully change, at least not to the extent that like you may desire. So it is important to accept it and build new patterns. Again, some may work, some may not, and that's okay. Whatever I have learned, I try to convey to my family, because I honestly believe that like my parents were not exposed to the resources and the environment that I am sitting in 2020, and it may be difficult for them to digest some of the things, or to even to understand some of the things that I bring to their table. So I have to have the patience to make them understand, to like not to sound too preachy, but to educate them. And it is my responsibility, and I need to do that. I need to do that very patiently. And lastly, I would end by saying that don't be afraid of the past. I was, until I realized that like that now that I want to move on, it is important for me to visit my past in order to move forward into my present, and that's okay.